voice of the drum calls. It sings a song of those who came before us and those to come. A song of survival and strength. A song of participation and voice. A song that calls us together. When we come together and participate in the 2010 census, we use this tool as the voice of all our Native people. Our voice. It is in our hands. 2010 Census.
Hello, I'm Kimberly Acosta. Welcome to the Native News Update. It's Friday, March 12th. Many of the stories you hear here can be found at our website, IndianCountryNews.com. And here's the news for the day from the Associated Press and other Native news sources. Sex offender registration was among the topics at a 3-day symposium focused on the protection of children in Indian communities. The event drew about 300 tribal representatives, law enforcement officers, social workers, and others from around the nation. The Adam Walsh Act, named after the slain son of America's Most Wanted television host John Walsh, requires convicted violent sex offenders to register with local authorities, increase punishments for some federal crimes against children, and strengthens child pornography protections. State and tribes have until this summer to implement the registration and notification systems required under the Adam Walsh Child Protection and Safety Act of 2006, but many are expected to seek extensions. Lolly Vegas of the 1970s band Redbone passed away March 4th in his Los Angeles home after a long battle with lung cancer. He was 70 years old. According to his brother, Patrick Vasquez, it was Jimi Hendrix, himself part Native American, who talked the musicians into forming an all-Native American rock group, and so they signed as the band Redbone to Epic Records in 1969. The band then consisted of Patrick Vasquez, Lolly Vasquez, Peter Defoe, and Anthony Tony Bellamy. Their debut album Redbone was released in 1970. Redbone came into the spotlight with their 1974 single Come and Get Your Love, which climbed to the number 5 on the Billboard charts, stayed in the top 40 for 18 weeks, and sold 70 million copies. Activist Doris Granny D. Haddock passed away March 11th at her home in Dublin, New Hampshire. She was 100 years old. Granny D, as she came to be known, strode into the public life by walking the length of the country in 1999 to call attention to the need for campaign finance reform. At the time, she was 89 years old. Haddock, who was born nearly a decade before women gained the right to vote, was a genial but tireless and passionate advocate for her beliefs. She could not turn her back on any problems once it caught her attention. She had to do what she could to solve it. A plan to test hydrogen bombs on Native American lands in Alaska made her an activist in 1960, and she spent the next 50 years promoting positive changes and trying to stop bad things from happening. The wolf population in the northern Rockies rose last year, but at the slowest rate in nearly 15 years, according to the report released by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. There were a minimum of 1,706 wolves inhabiting Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, and parts of Oregon and Washington State in 2009, compared to at least 1,650 wolves the year before. The number of breeding packs increased from 95 to 115. The population estimates are included in the 2009 Interagency Annual Wolf Report compiled by state and federal agencies and Native American tribes. The report attributed agency control, new hunting seasons in Montana and Idaho, and the wolves' territorial behavior in slowing the population growth to less than 4% last year, the lowest growth since 1995. Until 2009, the wolf population has been on a sharp upward trend, at times increasing 30% in a single year. 6 months after receiving the Nobel Peace Prize, President Barack Obama announced he was distributing the prize's $1.4 million award among 10 charities that work on veterans care, disaster relief, and education. The biggest winner, according to the statement from the White House, is Fisher House, a nonprofit group that arranges housing for families of combat veterans recovering at VA hospitals. The group will receive $250,000. The earthquake recovery efforts in Haiti will receive $200,000 through a donation to a long-term recovery fund set up by former Presidents Clinton and Bush. 6 other charities will each get donations of $125,000 to fund their efforts to send more students to college on scholarships. The groups extend scholarships to African Americans, Native Americans, Hispanics, and students from the Appalachia region of the United States. And that's the latest roundup of news from Indian Country on this edition of the Native News Update. I'd like to thank you for joining me, and have a grand day.